Good day, and welcome to the Fishbowl in Frisco, right down the street from the Star, headquarters of your Dallas Cowboys, where we've got a bunch of items on the agenda for you today. Let's start with Roger Staubach, Thomas Hollywood Henderson, and Dez Bryant, and what they have in common. You might think nothing. You're wrong. So Dez Bryant had a visit with TMZ the other day, and he said, I want to be a life coach. He kind of surveyed the scene around the NFL in particular. Of course, it goes beyond just the NFL, and it goes beyond sports, what he's talking about. And he was reflecting on the death of Vincent Jackson, the NFL wide receiver. Died alone in a hotel room in Florida, a result allegedly of alcoholism and a mental health disorder. And Dez, reflecting on that, says, I think God gave me a gift. I think I can see those things. I think I can help those guys. I want to help those guys. If you're a Fish for Lunch guy, or you watch and listen to me now, radio, TV, online, newspaper, books, here, you may already have guessed this. I have a passion for a lot of things, like you do. Two of them are for people with mental health struggles, because it's not like a broken leg where you can see it. You see a guy with a broken leg, you open the door for him. You can't see a guy with a broken something else that causes him or her to have a mental health issue. We've all got that person in our circle of friends. We've all got that person in our families. If he's in your family, you know, and you try to be there to help. If he's not in your family, or he's a stranger, or he's a celebrity, too often, we've got to decide we're going to make fun of him. We're going to make fun of it. And in the case of Dez, we're going to make fun of Dez. So this comes out on social media, and immediately, and I quit looking after two. But two Dez Bryant followers, I think they also follow me at Fish Sports on Twitter. One of whose name I recognize, the other one I did not, made fun of Dez Bryant for his stated goal to be a life coach, counselor, help people, help athletes who are struggling the way Vincent Jackson obviously struggled, struggling the way you and I may have sometimes struggled, our friends, family absolutely have, and maybe in some ways the way Dez Bryant himself has struggled. And the two commenters were basically, the two immediate commenters, I mean fast. Well, Dez, that's great. I'm a big fan of yours. Went these two posts, these two comments, with misspellings and bad punctuation, as you might expect. But how are you going to fix somebody else? Why don't you fix yourself first? Love you, Dez, but... And the first thing I thought about, because Dez Bryant's an adult, he can take it. The first thing I thought was, that's why we need fixing. Because those two people represent, I'm afraid, millions of people in the world that think this is all funny. They're also misguided in thinking that to be a life coach, it means you can't have any flaws. You can't have any problems. That's what they're insinuating with Dez. One of them said, why don't you fix your own flaws first before you try to fix them? Really makes me sad and makes me mad. First of all, on a big picture thing, it causes you to realize that some people think the only way to be a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a life coach, a teacher, a counselor, a mentor, is if you don't have any flaws. Because if that's the rule, you're right. Dez Bryant doesn't get to be one. And you know what else? Nobody else gets to be one either. It takes a flawless human being to be a mentor? Come on, guys, that's not the way it works. And then on a more micro scale, the insistence, even from Cowboy fans who know him best and who should know better, to try to deny this guy, in particular, his dreams. I've told you before, and as you know, my relationship with him is a good one. I mentioned my two passions of many. One of them is for people who are trying to help in the mental health field, and the other one is for players who care. I'm passionate about athletes who are passionate, and I certainly understand why, a 7-foot guy plays basketball even though he doesn't love it, why a 300-pound guy plays football even though he doesn't love it. It pays. And some middle school gym teacher found that 7-footer to be, and whatever he is, he's a 6-foot third grader, and said, here's a basketball. This is what you need to do. That doesn't make the kid love it. It just means the kid did it for a job, and that's fine. Plenty of football players don't love football, and I don't blame them. If you played football, if you played Texas high school football, then you must love it, because it's hard. And it stays hard. The longer you play, the more you've got a metal rod in your wrist, the more you need surgery on your knee, your life expectancy goes down, your quality of life late in life goes down. All those things are very real, and for somebody to offer some sort of help, I don't care who it is, let alone Dez Bryant, and then to get laughed at and scoffed at as if they're not qualified to help. And this is where my great old Thomas Hollywood Henderson story / Roger Staubach story comes in really handy. I used to, Thomas came to Valley Ranch, and I was there, and he came to visit with players. And I think he spoke to the entire roster. But certainly if you have a particular trouble, Thomas wanted to help you. He, of course, had been through it all. The very highs, in more ways than one, and the valleys with substance abuse. As the story goes, he once covered a kickoff in the Super Bowl with a vial of drugs tucked into his sock. He then, as I recall the story, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. By the way, thank you for subscribing. We are a minute away from 23,000 of us hanging out here, and also a minute away from 100 people being in the premium section. And I hope we can deliver the goods there for you too. And he later won the lottery, and then won the lottery again. I think that story is right. So seriously, Thomas Hollywood Henderson, rags, riches, peaks, valleys, all of it. And he decided that he wanted to contribute something, so he became a counselor, somebody a life coach, basically. John Lucas in basketball does the same thing. John Lucas is a life coach helping people, especially with their struggles with substance abuse. Why? Well, because he struggled with substance abuse and then went and learned how to be a counselor for it. John Lucas, of course, with his Rockets Association. So, and I did talk to Henderson a little bit about this. I didn't bring up this specific example, but my question then and even now continues to be, what is the right guy? Should you have as your team counselor, life coach, model, somebody who's squeaky clean, who can tell you, listen, you don't need to behave like that, because I didn't? Or do you need somebody who behaved like that and then fixed it? And so I reminded of Roger Staubach, who famously told Phyllis George on CBS Sports when asked about, and the whole thing was a setup, but still funny. Joe Namath, of course, was a very popular name, the Playboy quarterback, and Roger Staubach had a bit of a different lifestyle than Joe Namath, and so Phyllis George asked him something about that, and he said, Roger says, I like sex just as much as Joe Namath does. I just like to have it with one girl. His lovely bride. First of all, this is 1970 something. For Roger Staubach to be on TV, sitting in a room with Phyllis George saying the word sex, that was a big deal. But the point is, you need a Roger Staubach as a role model, a guide, a counselor? Yes. Do you need a Hollywood Henderson as a role model, a guide, a counselor? Yes. And if Dez Bryant wants to pitch in to what is sometimes, not only on social media but beyond, a cesspool in society where mean girls, only they're oftentimes men, get on social media and make fun of guys who are trying to help by saying you're too flawed to help the flawed. Dear Jesus, Thomas, we need you. Roger, we need you. And Dez Bryant, damn right. You want to help? We'll take your help. Fish, out.